Let me call this meeting of the Statewide Transportation Strategic Planning Committee to order. And our first business and only business today is we have Megan Weiss, Assistant Office Head of Capital Regional and Systems Planning, to speak to us today.
Good
Megan,
morning.
if you would come on. Yeah, I know. Maybe we got a substitute.
Megan's my twin. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here for the Planning Committee meeting. I'm Janine Miller, Director of Planning. Wanted to introduce Megan to you. Since I came to GDOT in 2020, Megan has been a steady hand and an advisor and a real amazing doer for us here, getting great things done. She's risen through the ranks. She started with GDOT Planning 9 years ago yesterday. And she is now Assistant Office Head for the Capital Region. And very excited to introduce Megan, as well as the topic that we'll be discussing today, the I-85 PEL, as we talk about it. It's not the candy, that's Pez. It's not the pill, as in the medicine, it's PEL, P-E-L, Planning Environmental Linkage. We've spoken to you about it before, so you'll have a little refresher here on some of the topics, but we're advancing this process. It's very exciting to see the streamlining that's going to occur in the planning and environmental permitting, where it's coming together, but also the partnership with Gwinnett County to take a real comprehensive approach to this critical corridor, both for people and freight into the future. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Megan.
Thanks, Janine. Good afternoon. As Janine stated, I'll be talking about the 85 PEL study. This study is very important to us, not only because it's very new. Planning environmental linkage is something we haven't done before in the state of Georgia, but we are partnering with Gwinnett County. It is a 50-50 partnership. They put in $5 million, we put in $5 million. They're very dedicated. They're a great partner to have. They also have their T-SPLOST program, so they are able to help contribute to projects, and will work with us to prioritize projects. They're very aware of how important this corridor is. As you all know, it's a heavily traveled corridor, not just for commuters, but for freight operators, for our transit system. So all of this is being focused on to look at congestion, safety, other issues, maybe bolstering what we have economically and movement-wise. Majority of this area is located within Gwinnett County, but we do have some pieces that, of course, are in DeKalb County. I know you guys have heard PEL before, but just to kind of provide another overview, PEL stands for Planning Environmental Linkage. Essentially what we're doing is we're taking a planning study a step further. We're incorporating the NEPA process in early. The plan is for this to save time and money down the road. One of the biggest things that typically you don't see in a planning study is that heavy stakeholder and public involvement. By doing this study, we're involving our public early and more often. We're involving our stakeholders early and more often, as well as collaboration across, not only GDOT, but all of Gwinnett County. We talk to cities and CIDs. We're getting that early buy-in of what will and will not work. So you'll see that kind of process going through as well. Of course, in the long run, we're making sure that this has a better use of our funds. We don't want to recommend a project that we know is going to fail out of the gate. So when we go through the screening process, we look to see if it's even going to make some of those environmental standards that we do have during that NEPA process. Of course, as stated, this is the first time we're doing it. Federal Highway is also a huge partner that we have with us in this. This is also the Georgia Division's first time doing PEL, so they are learning right alongside us during these things. On the screen, you'll see the study area. If you notice, it is about 18 miles in length. We do cover 3 different CIDs and at least 5 cities that just touch the interchange. Our studies group goes beyond that. Our stakeholders are far and wide between, because we are looking at those cross streets that do have people traveling to and from the corridor, but we are talking to every single person that's along that corridor to make sure that we are getting the right people, we're getting the right businesses, we're getting the right, folks that are even just the frequent traveler versus the occasional commuter that kind of come through. This corridor does serve over 300,000 vehicles every day. Please keep in mind this is actually an older number, so that number is growing. As we've seen, if you guys drive up and down that corridor, it's very congested no matter when you go. With Gwinnett County, there's a lot more, development happening, a lot more new homes coming in, so the number of people that are traveling are increasing. Along that same corridor, we have a lot of freight industry warehouses. right touching the corridor and then going out a little bit further. So about 11 to 16% of that traffic is freight, and only 35% of them goes straight through. So you have people that are stopping along some of those areas. Of course, commuters, no one ever leaves on time. No one ever gets to anywhere on time. Here, they take the typical travel time. They have to plan for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, sometimes even more, just to get from point A to point B. And of course, we have quite a few commuters that only exit within 2 exits of where they got on. So that's about 30% of our travelers. So we have people that are just looking for that local connection and not necessarily that long distance travel. Of course, I said, safety is a big issue. Our crash rates are about 19% higher on the statewide average. So we are looking at ways to remedy that, whether it's through, safer measures or just better design overall, and just making sure that people continue to move forward. On the screen, you see the visions and goals. The vision was, and the goals too, were developed in coordination with the stakeholders and the public. We did not come up with this on our own. This is basically what we all believe to be what is the driving force behind this study, along with, the SSTP. So we're looking to provide safe, reliable interstate travel for people and goods as part of a connected, efficient transportation network while creating value for surrounding communities. We heard a lot from our stakeholders about making sure that communities have a connection. Communities can traverse safely across 85 as well as on 85. We heard about people wanting to improve the overall facility, get more buses through, get more people on the roadway in and out on time, get their freight moving as well. So we took all of that in, we developed these goals. Every project that we have touches these goals in some form or fashion. Some may only touch one category, but the majority of them touch at least 2 or 3 categories when we go through and evaluate every single project we do have. So, on the screen, you see our screening process. When we started, we said nothing is off the table. We're close to the end, nothing is still off the table. We're still taking in ideas as they come in. But basically, in the beginning, everybody that submitted a survey, they came to our open houses, they came to our community events, or rather we went to them at their community events. We took everything in. We took in what GDOT had to say. We took in past studies, and we created what was called the Universe of Ideas. That was well over 1,000. And at that point in time, we fatal flawed anything out that probably didn't have anything to do with the corridor, or we started finding those that had overlap. Quite a few times you had a project that was mentioned more than once, so we knew that was going to be an issue area that floated through the top. So that was our Universe of Ideas, and we kind of screened them down. Tier 1 screening, we had 219 alternatives. At this point, we're just looking at, does it even address a need? So we know there's a problem on the corridor, but it's just going to address a need that we have. Do we want to solve something, or do we want to, kind of take a look? At this point, we're doing a little bit of quantitative analysis, but it's mostly qualitative. So we're going through, we're mapping everything out and making sure that it does help the corridor. As we move forward through Tier 2, we're screening out even more projects. We're down 160 ideas, and now we're looking to see how well does it work on its own. So at this point, this is where a lot more of the data comes in, more of the modeling. We want to make sure that this project, if we just plucked it at it and did it early, is it going to work? So that's where we kind of started, and this is probably about where you guys left off the last time. Currently, we are in Tier 3 screening. Now we're looking at how well do the projects work together. So we screened out a few more. We still have 135 alternatives that have gone through. So now we're looking to see, do they work together? Tier 3 screening is about a 6 to 12 month effort, depending on how you look at it. But we want to make sure that we don't put it forth a recommendation in which, a project is going to make the next one upstream or downstream not work as well. On the screen, you can see the categories of which all of our projects have fallen through. They're all organized into 6 categories. We have our managed lane systems improvements. We do currently have one managed lane system out there. There's one lane in each direction. I'll go into a little bit more detail on that, what we've looked at so far. We have our freeway and interchange improvements. So those are your operational improvements, your interchanges, whether it's on, off ramps or anything else on there with just the movement through. Your collector distributor system, those are your parallel systems to the interstate, but still attached. They're usually divided on one side of the highway or the other. And of course, interchange modifications. Are we going to change the design of the interchange itself? You have your non-interstate improvements, so turn lanes, signal modifications, new connections across 85. Those new connections across 85 will not touch 85, so they will not have that direct on-off ramp access. That is something we did hear quite a lot from our stakeholders, creating that extra community access, safe multimodalism across 85 to keep people moving and then possibly shift them away from the interchanges to keep people on and off the interstate. Multimodal options, bike ped improvements, transit access improvements. This also will tie into our managed lane system as well as Gwinnett County's transit plan. Policy changes as far as infrastructure. This will be aimed at active traffic management, transportation policy recommendations, or incident responses, maybe improving our HERO system or another system that could also come into place. And of course, our supplemental improvements could be something as simple as signage, pavement marking, shoulder runnings, anything like that. Those are probably going to be your low dollar items, but that can be tagged into anything else around here. With the managed lane system, we took a look at quite a variety of systems in terms of trying to go through and see what will work best for this corridor. On the screen, you can see what we no longer are considering. Some of these would be commercial vehicle lane only, just trucks only into that. That is off the table. A 4-lane system, which would have 4 lanes running in each direction. That's a bit much. It almost double our occupancy, but we didn't see a benefit in there. Reversible lanes. Unlike 75, 85 doesn't have a very directional peak flow traffic. It's congested both ways the entire time, so reversible was taken off the table as well. So the options that are still on the table are widening the 2 lanes in each direction and widening to 3 lanes in each direction. We are also considering and looking at the possibility of allowing trucks in during off-peak periods. They would be paying, but with the amount of freight in the system and demand, we are looking to see if there's even a demand for the trucks to get in and pay and get them through. So on the screen, you can see freeway interchange improvements. Every letter stands for a particular location that we are looking at. So all of these would be in some form or fashion extending our current CE system. In some areas, we have some other areas are kind of cut off, and then they pick up again. We may look at continuing them through. Others would be changing up those interchanges. Some of our busier interchanges are Jimmy Carter and Pleasant Hill. So how do we reconfigure those and make them better and keep traffic moving? And of course, you might have, changing diversion diamonds or just reconstruction of the design of the interchange overall. We are looking at that connection to 985 and 316, as well as 285, and where that free flow movement is occurring as well. The non-interstate improvements, again, like I stated earlier, those would be those new connections across the roadway. Gwinnett County is actually taking a look at some of these themselves. They did submit for a grant trying to get some additional funding to study the new connections even further. So with this would free up the space that we have at the on and off ramps at 85. That would shift them over, whether it's north or south, and allow those pedestrians or those cars just to travel between the two communities that may be on either side of the freeway. And then again, that is something that Gwinnett County stakeholders stated was very important to them. Okay, we have transit evaluation. So with this, we are actually working very closely with the Gwinnett County Transit System. They do have a plan that they are currently updating, and of course, as they update, we kind of tweak our plan for them as well. Most of these, if not all of these, do not actually come from us as a recommendation. We are pulling them straight from what Gwinnett County has told us. And so we're looking at these and saying, okay, where can we help them? Where are their parking ride lots? In terms of the managed lane, how do we provide them direct access to get those buses in and out and let them keep moving those commuter buses down to where we are here or Perimeter Center or Midtown. So we're looking at that. We're looking at where are those population demographics. And again, these keep shifting. Every time we meet with Gwinnett Transit, we want to make sure we're doing what they need to keep their system moving. And we also are working with ATL to make sure that all partners are talking to each other. And of course, their demand for transit has been growing in the area. They'll also have some high capacity routes that they're looking at between Gwinnett Transit Place and Sugarloaf Mills They're doing a lot of extra development out there, as well as some of their employment centers as well. It's just getting people to and from there. So this slide here talks about that Tier 3 screening I talked about. So this is basically where we are in the study. So we created what's called project packages. So every project that you saw on those last few lists are in some form or fashion in one of 4 packages. The idea behind it is we want to make sure that we see how well they work together. So that very first package we had has every project, including a 3-lane managed lane system. So we're looking at how everything works through there. Our second package just has a 2-lane managed lane system and all the transit improvements. Again, looking for where can we put transit, how well is that managed lane system working and flowing through. The third packet looks at just those major interchanges, so 316, 285, and 985. If we just fix those, what would that look like? We know that those areas have a lot of congestion issues, free flow issues there. Then our fourth package just looks at all those simple operational improvements. You know, if we just did operational improvement, no managed lanes, no anything else, what would that look like? And then we're doing that analysis. We'll go back out to the public one more time. We'll go back out to the stakeholders one more time and get their feedback on that. Those packages that we are looking at are not the final design. We're just looking at how can we take all of those results and then recombine into what is the perfect alternative, and then we'll make that recommendation to everyone moving forward. We hope that with this, not only do we take those projects, but Gwinnett County or any of the locals can pick up a project and then run with it. These projects are designed to basically be standalone so that anybody can move forward, whether they're applying for a grant or just putting it into the program for future SWAS type of lists, essentially. On the timeline over here, this is basically where we've been and where we're going. We started this in 2019. We've done lots of rounds of public outreach, stakeholder outreach, screenings, evaluations. We are, here in Tier 3, we will be going out to the public in August, September 2023, give or take. Same thing with our stakeholders to get their buy-in, and we'll be making those final recommendations in 2024. On the screen, you can see what we call our NASCAR slide. These are just probably not even all of our stakeholders. This is everybody we've been talking to, whether it's in large groups, small groups, one-on-one. These guys have all been very valuable to us. We always keep working with them, and we are also always adding people. So if you see someone that you think we should be talking to, let us know. We're happy to invite them to our next round or even meet with them one-on-one. At this point, if there's any questions, I will take them.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. You have quite a task on your hands. I rarely drive 85, but I had to drive coming in today on I-85, and it was, I'm glad it's a rare event for me. But for the gentleman to my right and to my left, they probably drive it quite often. Of course, I use gentleman loosely with this one to my left. But with that, any questions from the board? And thank you for a very complex project, though, in the presentation you made, and thank you for what you're doing. It's very much needed. Any questions from members?
Just, is there a time frame in 2024 for the recommendation?
We are planning on trying to have it in early 24, so no later than March.
No later than March.
It will depend on how our stakeholder and public feedback go, but we anticipate to be able to have that done.
Yes.
So maybe are we doing something similar to this on 75 through Henry County?
For the Appel study or the study in general?
I think that's... Hi, Ms. Lemon. Great question. You are correct. That is also a target corridor for us, given the congestion and the growth in the area. If I'm not mistaken, the way that we embarked upon this study was in collaboration, co-funded the work, and arm in arm throughout the process with the Gwinnett County staff and leadership. We would welcome that with any of the communities in the I-75 corridor. We have done an initial study to show some of the findings similar findings about the congestion levels on I-75 corridor, but taking it into the next level of the PEL to get to implementation will take additional efforts and with the locals.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Jamie?
I know it's preliminary, but, the funding, where will that, if it moves forward, where will the funding, how will that be handled? Do you know?
In terms of the funding, that will all depend on the type of projects that move forward and then who wants to have what priority. In terms of Gwinnett County, they are part of the ARC region, so they can apply through the CHIP solicitation where they ask for funding from the Atlanta Regional Commission to be added. We can also, depending on the type of project, if it's something that we can do, partner with them. And then again, of course, there's all these grants that we've been doing with IIJA that have been coming out that we'll happily work with. I mean, Gwinnett's already started that effort. So the funding sources, there's a lot to choose from, but we don't have any dedicated right now because we don't know the project list.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, great answer, all correct. I just add to that, if we talk about managed lanes, that means tolled lanes in Metro Atlanta. So the toll revenues would be part of the solve for the I-85.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody else on the board? If not, Megan, thank you for your report. Janine, thank you for your additions to it. With that, we stand adjourned.
Yes, correct. You're right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. State Transportation Board of Georgia, the Intermodal Committee. Sitting in for our illustrious chair, Ms. Emily Dunn, who's not here today. My name is Stacy Key, and today for the Intermodal Committee, we have a rail program update by Joanna Campbell, Assistant Division Director. Joanna? Welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Ms. Key said, I am Joanna Campbell. I'm the Assistant Director of the Intermodal Division. Where is this? Here we go. I wanted to give you today an update on our GDOT rail program. To summarize and to give you an overview of the rail system in Georgia, we have two Class I railroads that are the long-distance and national railroads, CSX and Norfolk Southern in the state of Georgia. We have the Class I freight system is currently at full capacity. They are operating at they're carrying nearly all of the loads that they are able to carry at this point, and they do not have room to expand much further. And we do not believe that there is room for expansion into passenger rail on that system at this time. We have one of the most extensive freight rail networks in the country. We are currently ranked at number 7 nationwide for freight rail. We also have 26 feeder railroads. They are called short lines. 20 of them are owned by private entities, and 6 of them are owned by GDOT. They are not operated by GDOT. We do not operate any rail. They are leased to operators. We have, we have 2 inland ports. We have 2 seaports that have Class I railroad access. We have 5 Amtrak stations, and we have 5 scenic tourist railroads. As you can see, according to the 2021 State Rail Plan, we are carrying 171 million tons of freight across the state of Georgia. About 85 million tons are moved through the state, and another 11 million tons originate in Georgia. I'm sorry. So now I want to talk to you, and I want to show you that GDOT-owned short-line rail network. As I said, we own 6 railroads. We do not operate them. In 2021, the State Rail Plan indicated that there were about $157 million in needed improvements on the short-line system. We have been working steadily on those improvements, and we've made a lot of progress. We've upgraded 250 miles or more of track. We have upgraded 37 bridges, and once we're complete, and once the current round of projects is complete, we will be at about 70% upgraded to Class 2 286-ton track. Fortunately, the funding to allow us to do this work has been increasing over the last several years. Historically, we received about $7 to $10 million per year in funding for these different short line projects on our lines. Those numbers have increased, and in the last 4 years, since 2019, we've had enough money that we've been able to apply to the FRA for federal funding under their competitive CRISI grant program. We've been very successful in getting grants under that program. And in 2019, we received over $7 million in grants, and in 2022, we received $9.1 million in grants. So that's the overview. I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes about these specific railroads. The longest of our railroads is the Heart of Georgia Railroad. It runs across central Georgia, covers 249 track miles. We acquired that line in pieces between 1998 and 2004. We were successful in receiving a CRISI grant for that line of $1.6 million, and that CRISI project is going to be complete this May. It currently supports the agricultural and timber industries and supports 915 jobs. The next line is the Georgia Southwest Railroad with 102 track miles. We were able to receive a $5.2 million CRISI grant for that line, and that project will be completed this month. We're very close to wrapping that up. It supports primarily agribusiness and other related industries in south central Georgia. And it supports approximately 635 jobs. As you see, these are very valuable to their rural communities. The next line that I want to show you is the Chattanooga and Chickamauga CCKY line with 49 track miles in northwest Georgia. It serves the textiles and manufacturing industries and supports over 4,000 jobs in North Georgia. The next line I want to show you is the Cater Parrott RailNet line. It runs from Valdosta to Nashville and up to Willacoochee. It has 43 track miles, supports 635 jobs, and supports wood products, geotextiles, and wax production industries. We have applied for a CRISI grant on this line in the amount of $6.3 million. We are waiting. Those announcements will be made this fall, and we're hoping that we are successful in getting that grant. The next line I want to show you is the Georgia Northeastern line, and many of you are familiar with this as the Blue Ridge Scenic Railroad. It has 25 track miles. It operates solely as a tourist train, an excursion line. There are no freight customers, and it does support approximately 35 jobs. And finally, we have the Ogeechee Railroad, which has 22 track miles. We are completing a $1.35 million project this year on that line. It supports about 25 jobs. So now that you know something about our railroads, I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing in the rail program right now. We are working on a pretty significant project right now to do a rail lease modification and modernization. The goal of this program is to create a robust network to collect large and small railroads, support that first and last mile transportation that our short lines are so good at, and connect local communities and local businesses to the markets. We'll also create new opportunities for economic development and new businesses to relocate along those lines, move goods to marketplace faster and more efficiently, and generate higher revenues from those lines that can be reinvested into those rural communities. The other thing that we're working on, the other big thing, and you may have heard of this, is we are in the beginning stages of conducting a study for high-speed passenger rail service from Atlanta to Savannah. I want to be clear that this project will not be commuter rail service. It is a passenger rail. Travels long distances and at faster speeds between major cities. And to give you a little bit of background on that project, this is an FRA study conducted, GDOT and FRA together. Amtrak is not one of the participants in the study. They are a stakeholder. They are a major stakeholder. The project is funded by an $8 million federal earmark that is administered by the FRA. And it is to fund an EIS to ready Atlanta to Savannah corridor for implementation of high-speed passenger rail. That federal grant does require a 20% match, and that match has been identified and it has been secured. Coincidentally, at the same time as we were awarded this federal earmark, the FRA announced a new program that came out of the bipartisan infrastructure law called Corridor Identification. The purpose of Corridor Identification project is to identify intercity passenger rail corridors of under 750 miles, identify capital projects for federal investment, taking into consideration the appropriate sequence and phasing of projects, and then to submit to ready a project pipeline for report to Congress on what should be advanced in the future. The first applications for the Corridor ID program to FRA were submitted in March of this year, and selections for that program will be announced later this summer. And so you can see what the Corridor ID program looks like. I want to be clear, the red arrows are the Atlanta to Savannah project, where we are right now and where it will ultimately end, and the FRA outline and their schedule of how these programs will progress. I want to reinforce to you that the Atlanta to Savannah project is not a part of Corridor ID at this time. We have applied to be in the program, but we are not a part of it. We are currently in that orange section at the project planning stage. We are very, very early. We have not identified a path beyond the yellow. So the green and the blue are for our later phases that we have not addressed in any way, and we'll look at if they come to fruition in the future. So now what is happening? What's going on with these two programs together? We have submitted an application to Corridor ID for the Atlanta to Savannah project. As I said, those will not be announced until later this year. If we are accepted into the Corridor ID program, FRA will provide some match-free, what they call seed money. And later, as the project progresses, there may be additional reduced match funding available to continue. I will state again, we are not a part of Corridor ID at this point. We are working with our $8 million earmark and our state match. If projects that are selected for Corridor ID complete the program and are selected for further development, there will be additional grants, there will be additional opportunities at that time to take these projects into the blue and green sections that I showed you on the previous slide. So, going back to the Atlanta to Savannah project, the elements of that project, we're first going to do a service development plan, which is doing the technical prerequisites to demonstrate a financially and operationally feasible service. Then we'll look at the preferred technologies and speed to determine what will work best with the corridor and stay in line with the overall project goals. And for example, we'll consider whether the trains should be electric or diesel. After we do that work, we'll be looking at preferred alignments, looking at possible routes throughout the study region, narrowing the possible routes to one that will move forward to the full NEPA process. We'll also do a Phase 1 environmental impact study at the programmatic level, doing the initial outreach and preliminary environmental work. And then ultimately, at the end of the project, we'll do the Phase 2 EIS, which is the full and complete environmental study. As I already said, we are at the very beginning of this project. No work has been done yet. The consultant team has been selected to conduct the study. We do not have the earmarked funds available to spend yet, but we are working closely with FRA to get those funds and should have that money available later this summer. We are developing the scope and project phasing to do all of those elements, and that will be complete by the end of this year. And the service development planning will begin later this summer. And that is all I have. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you very much, Joanna. Great job. Ms. Lemon?
Joanna, a few questions. What's Chrissy?
That is the Consolidated Rail Improvement, improvement something. That's the one thing I did not write down. Safety, yeah, infrastructure safety improvements. Thank you.
Okay. Now, you stated that the Class 1s are not available for passenger rail at all, but you're going to be you've hired a consultant to conduct a service delivery plan and study. So what are we looking to use, our Class 2s?
Everything is on the table.
How can it be on the table if you just stated that they're not available for passenger rail?
They will be stakeholders, and we will talk to them about what they may or may not be willing to consider or what their concerns are. But it is our understanding from them that they are full on freight and not available. We will be studying what the options are.
Okay.
Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, Ms. Campbell, educate me a little bit. Why do we own railroads? How did that all start?
The short line railroads were purchased in the late 1990s, early 2000, because these railroads were underutilized and were not in good repair. So they were purchased so that we could improve the line, so that we could get new businesses out there, primarily for economic development purposes, and make the short line rail available to new businesses in rural areas.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
You have on the map several lines that are indicated as abandoned. What is the intention of those abandoned lines? Will we work with communities to turn them into rails for trails, or is it something that GDOT's reluctant to do? What is that status?
We have worked with several communities to convert pieces of the lines to rails to trails, and there are also sections of those lines that are not currently in service that may be worth reactivating in the future.
Joanna, there's been a lot in the news around safety and the railroads lately. Is there anything that you need to share or we need to be aware of as it relates to safety for rail?
One of the things that we are considering and we're looking at in the lease modernization program is improving the requirements for safety and for upgrading and those safety protections for our lines. Our utility programs is also engaged with FRA in their activities to improve safety on the rail lines.
Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you. Thank you. With that, adjourn the Intermodal Committee meeting.
Let's everyone have a seat, please. I'd like to call to order the State Transportation Board Committee meeting, and Kurt. Andrew? Mr. Honig, nice to see you.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board, and Deputy Commissioner. I'm Andrew Hainig. Let me go to the, here. I'm Andrew Hainig. I'm the Construction Program Manager for the Office of Alternative Delivery. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk to you today about the State Route 316 Design Build Bundles project, give an update on the project, and talk about next steps. So again, I'll focus a little bit on the scope of the design build project, talk about what the scope of the 3 design build bundles are, and give a status update. And then the most important thing today is we're seeking favorable approval of a joint resolution between GDOT and CERTA to deliver these projects. So here's a picture or graphic of the corridor between Lawrenceville and Athens. The 316 obviously is a vital corridor throughout Georgia. I did a presentation back with Albert Shelby of Program Delivery back in the fall of 22 about all of the projects that we have going on in this corridor. We have certainly a lot going on in the corridor, a number of projects in construction right now, some in concept development, some in environmental development, but really trying to look at grade separating some of the signalized intersections along the corridor. So design build is just a small piece of that puzzle to do those grade separations. You can see there, if you can see them, the bundles 1, 2, and 3, those are the design build bundles that I'll be talking about. So those are 7 locations, 7 intersections currently that we're going to be grade separating or putting an interchange in. And what they are is we're taking those 7 locations and bundling them into 3 design build contracts. So there's 1 contract with 2 intersections, 1 contract with 3, and then 1 contract with 2 intersections again. I'll talk about where, specifically what those scopes are, but you can see there, they're bundled in 2 in Barrow County, 1 in Oconee County. They're numbered though in terms of when we're going to be letting them, so that's why they're not numbered geographically from west to east. Bundle 1 will be the first one out the door, followed by Bundle 2 in Oconee County, and then Bundle 3 in back in Barrow County. So these are really exciting projects. These are really the good size for a design build project. And the scope of the project is really, along with some of the projects that Program Delivery is doing, is to ease the congestion on 316. Obviously, it's a very congested corridor from Lawrenceville to Athens. It's also some operational improvements, and then also there's certainly a safety benefit to grade separating some of these intersections. You have a lot of conflicting movements now with turns to the side roads, and you have a lot of bumper-to-bumper traffic, so there's a safety aspect as well with all of this work going on 316. So that's where we kind of fit in the whole corridor. Now I'm going to narrow down onto the scope of our bundled projects. So this is the Bundle 1 project. This is in Barrow County. So what we're doing with this bundle is we're putting in interchanges at Bethlehem Road and at Barber Creek Road. Those are going to be interchanges. And this really shows why this is a good candidate for design build delivery. These 2 interchanges are separated by about a mile. And so you're able to get 1 contractor working on both interchanges at the same time. Certainly some economy of scale where you have 2 locations in 1 contract, and then you don't have the overlap with 2 contractors working in the same area. The somewhat higher volume locations along the whole corridor. You can see also in blue there some roadway, surrounding roadway network improvements that we're doing as part of this project, and then in yellow at Barber Creek. This project is about $100 million. In fact, all 3 bundles are sort of in that range, $100 to $150 million projects, and they really fit the mold of a good design build project where you can get some innovation and some size through the alternative delivery method.
Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Craft Road, is that where the Georgia Club is?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just prior to that, there's Dow's Mill Extension, which is not included in this.
Correct.
But I guess that's being studied, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, and that I'm pretty sure that Program Delivery has a project at Dow's Mill I'm not sure the schedule of it, but I do know they're looking at the improvements to be made there.
Well, I mean, all of this obviously is great news for us. If you get on 316, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it'll definitely improve the travel times. You can see there the 1.9 minute trip from Craft Road back to Barber Creek. But just eliminating all the red lights along the way, with going with bridges and ramps will just improve the travel time throughout the whole corridor. I'm going to touch about this schedule in a minute, but all of them are scheduled in the next year and a half for letting. So here's Bundle 2. This is in Oconee County. This is the largest bundle project. This is about a $150 million project. And what we're doing here is putting a full interchange at Oconee Connector. We're doing a loop ramp there at Oconee Connector, and then also Jimmy Daniel Road will be a full interchange as well there in the blue. Virgil Langford is going to be a bridge there in yellow. So that's the 3 locations in this bundle project. And even though there's not going to be ramps because it's so tight with Oconee Connector, there's really good connectivity back to Oconee Connector and to Jimmy Daniel. So you can see some of the small durations on the trip times, but again, with some of the eliminations of the red light removal, there's still a benefit overall. This project is Bundle 2, so it's the second one out the door. This one is currently scheduled for fall of 2024 let, so then we'll kick off design build procurement early next year. So here's Bundle 3. Again, this is back in Barrow County. This project is scoped to put a full interchange at Kilcrease Road there. That's on the left of the slide there. And then also within this project is Carl Bethlehem Road. That'll just be a bridge over 316. Similar to Virgil Langford, you have a lot of connectivity with State Route 81 and then with Patrick Mill Road. So it's pretty easy to get back to 316 from Carl Bethlehem Road. This is the smallest of the design build bundles, but it's sort of just under, right around $100 million delivery cost. And then this project being the last one out the door is scheduled for letting in Q4 of 2024. So Bundle 2 and 3 are really going to be tight time frame, one right after the other in terms of letting schedules. So now here's the Bundle 1. Again, since it's the first one out the door, we have a really set schedule already for the design build procurement. We issued what's called the public notice of advertisement, and that's really just an advertisement to the design build industry that, hey, we have a project coming. That was back in April of this year. We did host an industry forum, and that's where the industry comes in, and they're able to ask us questions, and we're able to answer questions about the scope of the project and about the process. So we held that back earlier just a couple weeks ago. I'll skip the one in green for just a minute to walk through the rest of the design build delivery. We anticipate issuing a request for qualifications to the design builders later this month in May 26th. And they submit back to us statements of qualifications in June. We anticipate announcing a short list of those design build firms in July. And for design build projects of this size, we do a short list, and that just means we want the 3 to 5 most highly qualified firms, or teams, I should say. We want the teams with the most experience, the best experience on similar projects. So that's why we shortlist projects like this. And then we would issue a request for proposals in July, and that's really just a design build contract. We just advertise that to those shortlisted firms. We receive proposals back from the design build teams in November, and then we anticipate announcing the successful proposer in December of this year. And that's really similar to a letting. That's when the bids are open, and we'll know who the team is in December. Typically, once we do that, we have 2 months until we sign the notice to proceed, so that we anticipate doing that in very early of 2024 for this Bundle 1. And even though we're going to have a contractor on board at that point, this is design build, so we typically see about a 6 to 9 month final design time frame. So then construction would probably start in fall of 2024 on Bundle 1. So going back to the green, that's certainly why we're here today. So I'll touch on that. That's the CERTA Joint Resolution Board approval. Of course, today would be committee approval for recommending to full board approval tomorrow. And then once GDOT signs, we anticipate CERTA signing shortly thereafter. And I'll talk up here about what exactly is in the joint resolution right now. So this is the CERTA and GDOT joint resolution. This really defines the roles, responsibilities, and relationship between CERTA, GDOT, and the design build team. You should have a copy of it provided in your packet already. So this really outlines the framework of our relationship and what the roles and responsibilities are between GDOT and who does what on this project. I'm going to talk about exactly what that entails. It establishes each agency's authority to deliver the project. It also states that GDOT will procure the design build team for the project, and we will function as CERTA's project manager regarding the management and oversight. again, we have the expertise on the design build procurement side. We've done a lot of design build projects of this size before, so it's really leveraging GDOT strengths along with CERTA strengths. We act as the day-to-day contact with the design build team on the post-let side of things. That's what that means, is we act as the project manager. The big difference on this project is that we're doing, is that they will be signing the agreement. So they'll sign the design build agreement with the selected design build team. And then the last thing the joint resolution does is it also establishes 3 separate agreements between CERTA and GDOT, and that is the State for Years, the intergovernmental agreement, and the memorandum of understanding. So this side, I'll talk about what all those agreements are. I know there's kind of a lot. So again, the State for Years, the IGA, and the MOU are just between GDOT and CERTA. So the State for Years grants CERTA the necessary property rights in the corridor so they can fulfill their obligations. The IGA really stipulates, again, some of that project management structure about what their responsibilities are and what their roles are. So it stipulates us as the project manager. And then finally, the MOU, the annual funding MOU, stipulates the annual funding mechanism between GDOT and CERTA, how much we're giving them on an annual basis to fund the project. And then also details out that CERTA is going to be doing the monthly invoicing. So that's the arrow there on the left, the vertical down to the design build team. So CERTA, since the design build team has the contract with CERTA, they will also be making the payments. So Matthew Fowler presented a similar structure to this last month on West Interchange. So we've done this structure now on all of our design build finance projects, and we've done it on a couple of our major design build projects. So this isn't really a new structure, but it's a good way to use CERTA strengths for multi-year funding. It enables us to fund the project over a 3 to 4 year period rather than a longer time period on design build finance projects. I feel like I should mention, since CERTA is involved, don't be worried. This is not a tolling project. There's no financing on this project, as well as it's not a long-term operational project. There's no maintenance on the design build team. It's just a regular design build contract over like 3 or 4 years. But it's good to leverage the CERTA ability to do multi-year funding on this project. And the 2 projects that we've done design build were 1695 and I-85 widening. We both of those projects use the same mechanism on a design build project before. So that really entails what the joint resolution is. And again, that rounds out the presentation unless there's questions, but we'll seek favorable approval of the joint resolution. I guess it's committee approval for the full board approval tomorrow.
Have any questions? This is just for information purposes. Completion time for, let's say, the first one you start,
It's about a 3.5 to 4 year duration on the contract. So I mentioned 6 to 9 months of design. There's probably some utility relocations, and then about a 3-year construction time frame. So that puts it in 27, 28 time frame for completion.
Well, in that I travel that a lot.
You want it quicker?
No, well, I'm glad to see something's being done, and I will get off this. And I mean, I know when we talk about the 316, once you get to 29, you've got Fence Road, Hurricane Road, and all those little bitty crossroads up there at the airport. And I'm assuming, will we be involved in that? Will Gwinnett County be involved in that? Or is that something even in the scope at this point?
It's not in the scope of the design build projects. I will say we're not grade separating every interchange and every intersection between Lawrenceville and Athens. We're really focusing on high volume locations at this time. But other than that, I might have to look to planning on that specific question, though.
Sure, I'm happy to take that question, Mr. Boswell. You may remember a few months ago we did a presentation about the State Route 316 study that's underway. We have a series of projects. There are, I believe, 22 projects at 19 locations, one of which was the Gwinnett County project that are going to, at the time, we're going to eliminate all of the signalized intersections along 316 and any that I think we'd already gotten rid of stop controlled. Since then, there's been a development in Gwinnett County that added a signal And so we've got, a project in the pipeline for that, but until that study is finished, we won't know exactly which interchanges will be constructed and which will be just overpasses and which might be cul-de-sac. Eventually, I do anticipate that all of the at-grade intersections will be handled in some way. But this first series of projects that will be delivered by calendar year 2025 only address the existing signals minus the one at, it's basically the Rowan development. I can't remember.
Up there right before you get to Harvard Road.
Correct.
Yeah. But and then the Oconee County projects, there's 3 of those, 2 interchanges and 1 flyover, I guess you'd say. So that's the second project, that'll be the second one to begin.
Yeah, and that's completion.
That'd be good to go home and tell them that anyway. We're not
Yes,
worse
sir.
than second.
Yes, sir. And remember, too, we have the Transforming State Route 316 website that
Yes,
keeps all of the
yeah,
active
yeah,
projects
yeah.
up to date. And
Yeah.
so you'll always know what the status of those projects are.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the joint resolution.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All no? Thank you. It's approved. Ma'am? Micah did.
Second.
Okay.
I'm on the committee and
Okay, that'll be fine.
Second.
Thank you all. Yeah. We stand adjourned.
Yeah, 3 seconds. Make no
I'll call the committee, the whole meeting to order. If Ms. Priscilla handle this for me.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to. We are very excited about our committee of the whole. We've got some good news to share with our board and the citizens across our state. And at this time, we will hear from our HERO program update. We heard the issues that were affecting us back in March, I believe it was, at our board meeting. And John, I'm glad that you could come forward today and give us an update about our HERO program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Hibbard. I'm the Division Director for the Operations Division here at GDOT. And yeah, I very much appreciate that introduction, and I'm glad that I can bring you some really good and encouraging news. You may remember in March, Alan Davis and our state traffic engineer, and Jason Josie, who heads up our HERO program, provided an update about the HERO program. Went back, talked about the history of the program. It dates back to 1994, pre-Olympic, its growth and its success. And they, in their presentation, reached this slide and focused on several issues that you could put together in the overall category of workforce challenges. And they focused on recruitment and retention, and then something they called stepping up to the challenge. The good news is that in the world of recruitment, we have just finished an Indeed.com, it's an online recruiting interview tool program, and we have 16 new HERO trainees that are coming on board. Some of them literally just came on board this week. Others will come in between now and the 1st of next month, and that's great news. Of course, we have improved salaries in place for all HEROs at all of the various pay grades, and those improved salaries have been in place now for a couple of months. Further, in the governor's budget, there was a $2,000 increase for all state employees, and that will also impact the HERO program. And so that goes good lengths, we believe, to improving retention in that unit. And Since then, Alan and Jason have done a great job. I'm very pleased with the work they've done that I get to bring to you today, working on a plan to make the best of these current staffing levels. And so I come here today to inform you of these temporary modifications to the HERO program. These modifications will result in a greater HERO presence at the times when the greatest number of incidents occur, in enhancing the HERO presence during those most critical times of the day. These modifications impact both the hours of service and the service area, and will be implemented by July the 1st, if not sooner. So first, to the hours of service, or perhaps the schedule. We will maintain 7-day-a-week HERO service. That's the first bit of good news. Monday through Friday, the HEROs will operate from 5 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. On Saturdays and Sundays, they'll start at 6 and run till 11:30 p.m. This will be accomplished. There'll be 2 shifts running on each day, and there will be some nice overlap of those 2 shifts. That provides better coverage, more flexibility in staffing, and I think this is big, helps to develop a stronger bond within the HERO program, within the unit, within the cohort, those folks that do all of that work. They will, creating a better sense of camaraderie, better sense of team. And I think that's a great thing. This schedule change, as you can see there, that chart on the screen before you, there's the yellow box, and that yellow box brackets 5:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. And within that yellow box is when 91% of the incidents occur. And so even as we adjust this to that time, we are still going to be present on the road at a greater density of operators when hopefully over 90% of the accidents occur. Now, let's note also, by the way, that the HERO program won 24/7 until 2014. It had been running, first 20 years of its existence was not a 24-hour-a-day program. That was a relatively recent change. But let's go to the service area part of the discussion too. Now, the green boxes that you see represent the limits, the current limits of HERO coverage. The red boxes that you see are where the limits are going to be in this modification. That the limits encompassed by the red represent about 247 miles of interstate. It's about 65% of the existing service area, and you see the hours of operation repeated here for convenience. Now, to be clear, even as we make this change, no interstate area is going without coverage. What's happening is that the CHAMP program will fill in those areas that are between the green and the red. The CHAMP program was started in 2016, and it is a means by which we provide similar service to the rest of the interstates in the state. It is a program that we run via a contract with one of our private sector partners. It's been a very successful program. Most any time I find myself outside of the metro area, I will pass or be passed, depending, by a CHAMP operator. And so even as we do this, that you see before you here, we're not taking service away. We really are changing who is providing that service. The CHAMP coverage, the additional CHAMP coverage represents about 135 miles, and it runs from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. Now, as we contemplate these things, questions bubble up, at least in my mind they did. And so I'll offer some of them out to you here. What about the express lane reversals? We have the express lanes up there on both on I-75, one north of town, the northwest corridor, and then south of town, the south managed lanes. Those will still be reversed using Hero master operators, same as the case is today. What about the really bad crashes that might occur in the middle of the night when we don't have coverage? There will be in place an on-call rotation of a limited number of heroes, and it rotates, that would be called upon if and as those incidents occur. What if you, me, anybody sees something happen on the interstates, an incident, regardless of time of day, as has been the case now for over 30 years, call 511. The 511 program has always been a 24/7 by 365 program, and it still is. And that's still the place to go. That's still the call to make. Recruiting, we will continue to be innovative and creative and nimble in our recruiting. I referenced earlier that we used Indeed.com as the tool by which we recruited those 16 I mentioned. We will certainly continue to use Indeed. If and as the next new thing comes along, which it wouldn't surprise me if one does, it seems to be how things work these days, we will evaluate it, determine if it's an effective tool for us to contemplate using, and we'll dive in and use as appropriate. Before we started here, I was just visiting with Nicole Glenn, our head recruiter, and man, she's done some amazing things over the course of this past year, and this Indeed.com being just one example of that. But to be clear, the purpose of that Indeed.com is to improve our staffing levels, because it is truly those improved staffing levels that will give us what we need to be able to return to that normal operation, which we hope will occur next year. So here's what's next. We begin a transition. We have informed staff just today of what's coming. They need that time so they can adjust their lives and their schedules, and so they can do what they need to do as relates to spouses and children and other jobs and such. And so that has begun. Outreach to media has been something that really is occurring even as we speak, to our media partners, to make sure that they are aware and understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Outreach to the first responder community, police, fire, that community will happen before the end of the day today. And certainly there are other stakeholders that we work with in the context of the HERO program, ranging from private sector contract partners to the towing community, all those that help make incident response and incident management happen on Georgia roadways. And they will all be informed really starting right now, and then that will continue into tomorrow. In sum, we're going to provide a better level of service right now, even as we build back to a staffing level that enables us to return to 24-hour operations as we have been doing previously. With that, I thank you for your time and your attention. I would welcome any questions that y'all might have.
Do I have any questions?
I have one.
All right.
John, what percentage of the accidents happen in the new area?
Well, that's that 91% is how we did the math that got us there. Overwhelmingly, that's in the new area.
Okay.
Overwhelmingly.
91% of them are in the new area, or I would think it's a smaller number.
It is not much smaller.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay?
That's even
It's
better.
if I cited 91% as I did,
Yep.
I would be saying it's about like 90.
Oh, that's excellent.
like that.
Okay,
It's, I mean,
excellent.
it's in that vicinity, yeah.
Yep,
Good
Yeah.
question, Stacy.
Yeah, thank you.
excellent.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Boswell.
John, is it funding that's the issue, or is it available personnel that's the issue of getting us staffed?
It is available personnel. Now, certainly, I mean, all governmental agencies, whether they're state or local, we can all cite the articles that we've read or the media reports that we've seen about challenges in recruiting. And that continues to be an issue. Unemployment in Georgia continues to be low, really low. And that makes it tough for public sector agencies to recruit. We think, actually, we're quite confident that the salary changes that we have been able to make, which are wonderful, that they will help. However, the pressure as relates to pay for jobs continues to be present. We've just made our position, our situation, who we're recruiting for, we've made our situation better.
Well,
Any other questions?
I think this is one of the best things that we have in the state of Georgia, and I tell everybody I know that if you're on an interstate and have a problem, call 511. My granddaughter had a problem and was on the interstate, called my son, he did not tell her to call 511. So obviously I'm not getting the message out like it should. But, I mean, it gives me a comfort level, and I tell everybody I know, and so
You're here.
as soon as we can get it back to 100%,
I look forward.
I think it's a great thing for the state of Georgia and for the people who live here.
And I very much agree with you. It has done a wonderful thing over its life since 1994 of putting a face on the department. It's done that really, really well. And the good news is, even as we make these adjustments that I presented to you today, we're still going to be able to maintain a good presence. And big credit to Alan and Jason for being really creative as they evaluated how best to accomplish that. But I look forward to being able to return to the full operations,
Yes.
as you said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I noticed that, you know, for good or ill, almost all of Gwinnett County is now out of the program except for one exit, which I think is not true of Cobb or any of the other counties, or it's not true of Cobb or any other counties. Can I get some information sent to me, not necessarily here, about the CHAMP program, since, you know, similar service doesn't mean the same, and so I'm assuming, and probably means less. I just want to be able to tell folks what we are going to have in Gwinnett. And then I think someone spoke to me about this change beforehand. Before we went back to 24/7, I would prefer us increasing the service area to increasing the time area. So I just want to be on the record stating that, especially given that Gwinnett's pretty much nixed from the program.
But to be clear, to get motorist assistance, whatever vehicle, it is provided via, you call 511, and no area in the state of interstate is without coverage. Be glad to furnish you additional information on CHAMP, that's not a problem.
I just want to sort of know what's changing, kind of thing.
And note that the changes that we made, there was data behind the changes. We didn't just do things arbitrarily to one to the exclusion of the other, or vice versa. This is not really something we wanted to do in an overall coverage context, not at all. But it's something that we thought we had to do to preserve the success of the program.
I totally think we believe in preserving the program and doing what we're doing. And aren't we still the only state that offers all of our interstate service with CHAMPs and with the HERO units?
We are one of the relatively few that have succeeded in creating a statewide program. Yes, ma'am.
And we certainly want it to continue to the best we can. Yes, Ms. Williams.
I have one question about the graph that you had up on the crashes and the times. Can you segregate that between weekdays and weekends? You know, I think it's a 24-hour period that you've graphed, and I don't want you to go to additional work, but if it's available, I think it would be really interesting to see the crash numbers, weekends versus weekdays. And I can attest to the program being all over because I had help changing a tire on 185 down near Callaway. So thank you. I love the program.
Good deal. I'll see what we can do on that data. I think we can pull that. Generally, it biases heavily towards the Monday through Friday. There is still plenty of traffic on the weekends, and I don't mean to make light of any of it, because I'm out there too. But nonetheless, I'll get you something, okay? Thank you.
This has been good discussion from our board, and thank you for the questions. Anyone else with a question or a statement? Well, John, I think I see someone that may be with our Hero Patrol unit here today, and I think it's only fitting that we recognize him and say hello and give him an opportunity to brief our board quickly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jason Josie. I'm over the Hero unit. So I'm going to step out on the limb here for a minute. I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings, but for Gwinnett County, yes, it does look like Gwinnett may have been taken completely out of the picture, but what I can tell you about how we operate is that if the incident or the request for our assistance rise to the occasion, we're coming. So we're not going to say no. What we're introducing is something that is going to be more efficient for us to be able to operate more proficiently. But if you have something in Gwinnett County that's going to need hero support, Gwinnett Fire, Gwinnett Police, as a matter of fact, we reached out to them today to let them know what the new standard is going to be. And I personally told them that if there are questions about what it is that I'm sending you, or if you need hero support or assistance, or it's just a force multiplier for your agency, let us know. We're going to, strictly prioritize our calls, but we're not in the business of saying no. Okay, so all of the counties that we cover, we're going to be trying our best to do whatever we can to support. And that's if it's a beautiful sunny day and everybody's out and nobody's crashing and something happens in Gwinnett County, we're coming. This is just an opportunity for us to kind of grow ourselves, that's all. But we don't think this is going to last forever. We know it's not going to last forever. We're very, very confident that by the first part of 2024 up to the middle part, we'll be back to 100%. We have our fingers crossed on that. It went across very, very well with the operators. They're excited and amped to get going with it, and hopefully this will be a boom for the organization to be able to also, add to our numbers. But we appreciate you guys' support and understanding about this.
Well, Jason, we appreciate you very much, and we appreciate the Hero units and our Champ unit. And we are very pleased to have them involved in our state to come to us when we're all in need, and I've been there too, and have certainly appreciated my Champs down in the other part of the state. Have not had to call on the Hero units yet, but I do know how to dial 511, be assured, and get that message. But thank you for what you do. And John, did you want to have a closing remark to our report from our Hero update?
So thank you all so much for your continued support, your attention. I appreciate the good questions, and we will look forward to following up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I please?
Yes,
Madam
please.
Chair?
I'm going to ask our Deputy Commissioner. He would like to add some things to.
Yeah, John, stand by, right? He's waiting to see what I say. Two things. Just realize that when 511's called, the calls are triaged and the appropriate folks are sent. And regardless if it's on the interstate or not, if you're not on the interstate, there's a foreman somewhere being woke up. There's always somebody going to respond. So the Champ vehicles, they have the same type capabilities. They're different. They have the same type capabilities. We actually charge them with a little bit of the maintenance stuff too in the rural areas to help us with eyes and ears. So I think we're in great hands. I'm not worried about lack of coverage or anything like that. The second thing I wanted to say is John started the presentation with the slide from the previous one. And I just wanted to comment on the meet the challenge statement and tell Jason Josie on behalf of the commissioner, I'm sure he'd echo this sentiment. Thank you all for all the hard work, long hours,
and holding this thing together the way y'all have, and for coming up with a plan, Alan and others, that we can be successful moving forward. So I just wanted to make sure I said thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you so very much to Brad Saxon, Deputy Commissioner here. And thank you again, John, Jason, all of you, and please relay our happiness to the unit. At this time, we're taking up also a management development program, our team projects that are going on, and I've got a team here today with us, and the first one that we're going to hear from is Kyle, and he is our statewide training manager for this group that comes together. Kyle?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having, am I too loud? You know, I project, you know.
I'm the same way, so just go right ahead.
I stand back here, it's better. Yeah, so I am the statewide talent development manager for the Department of Transportation, which means I oversee all of the training for the department. But one specific portion that we offer and that we wanted to highlight today is our management development program. Today we'll do a little bit about leadership overview, talk mostly about our management development program. Want to highlight how we're making the department better and things that we've done and implemented to help the department be a better place to work. And then I also have two of our recent groups from our recent management development class, which we call MDP, here to tell you about their projects and to tell you an update on where they are with their information. So this is our strategic leadership pyramid. This is the way we funnel our trainings. We start with our Supervisor 101. Then we have our MDP class. That's going to be our focus today. But then after that, we have an advanced. And then we participate in AASHTO trainings, which are held at a national level. And there are 3 different levels of those as well. So just a slight overview of our strategic leadership development trainings that we offer here within the department. So Management Development Program, MDP, is a 2-week program and is immersive. It's 1 week, and then you come back and you spend 2 to 3 weeks back in the office working with your group, and then a next full week fully immersed at a location, usually a state entity-owned location that we're able to go to. So it usually kicks off on a Sunday night. Sundays, it'll either be, usually has been Brad or Russell and myself come up and we kick off the program. It kind of looks like a prom or a high school dance where everyone kind of stands around in a circle, not really know who to talk to or what to do. But by the end of the program, everyone has come together as a team. And actually, I was counting before I got up here, in this room, there were at least 20 graduates of MDP for the department, and 2 of them are sitting back here, including Brittany, who was in our last class, and Brad, who was in a class we won't name the year. Call it early 2000s. But a lot of us who come up through the department get the opportunity to participate in this class. It's one of the things that I enjoy doing. So what kind of things do we talk about in there? What happens in there? So when people get in there, they are chosen by diverse areas all over the state, all different offices, things like that. And then they're assigned teams, and then the teams are to pick a project. And the project is to help the department be better. Pick a project that helps us be more at the forefront, find something where we need to improve a process or provide a new implementation. So during those 2 weeks, the groups do projects, but we also teach leadership development. So here are some of the topics that we talk about at MDP, including you do a listening assessment. You're learning about the importance of mentoring, not only to be a mentor, but to be a mentee. Leadership style assessment, that's where everyone kind of takes an assessment to see where your leadership style is at that moment. Presentation skills, leadership habits, employee motivation, what really makes your employees tick, what makes them want to come to work, what do they love about their job, and how can you help put them in those situations. So these are some of the topics, certainly not all of them. Remember, it's a 2-week program. But what are the goals of this? The goals are, first, leadership development. We want to develop leaders within the department. So for our supervisors and our managers, giving them these proven habits and these proven skills to help them be successful leaders. And then a secondary goal of this is our project presentation. So at the end of the 2 weeks, after the group has picked their projects, they've worked to develop the project, they've interviewed stakeholders, they develop a presentation. And that presentation is the culmination of MDP. We're on Friday, the last day. The executive management committee comes up, some sort of them, and usually sit up there and watch all the presentations, provide feedback, ask them questions, very similar to what we do here. So that's the last Friday, and then after that, if they pass the class, they get their certificates for completion. So I wanted to celebrate some of our successes. As Russell says, how are we making it better? So these are lists of projects since 2016, maybe even 2017, that have been implemented throughout the department just based on something that happened at the management development class. E-ticketing, where if y'all have any questions about pulling asphalt tickets, I'm not the guy to ask, but I do understand at some point there was where you would actually pull a ticket to show how much asphalt you received. Now that ticket is just an electronic ticket. That project came out of here. Not collecting your hard copy fuel receipts. Experience U, which you see on your screen, that is our homepage. That came out of MDP. Salt barn inventory. Before this project came along, we were only measuring how much salt we had in our barns based on how many truckloads were going in and out. So this actually gives us a way to look at real time and manage the salt, and it also weighs how much salt we have in the barns. We've gone with smaller and more digital plan sets. So whenever you would print out a road set plan, it would be very big. I'm not sure exactly how big, but it was really big. And now those are reduced to 11 by 17 or even being delivered digitally. We purchased a LiDAR drone to be able to use drones and use LiDAR technology. We've improved some of our search functions on our internal webpage. And then we've also, whenever we had to go get some work done on a work truck or a work car, you had to fill a form out in triplicate. So you had to go and get the carbon copy, take it back, and then bring the carbon copy back. And now all of that's handled digitally. So these are just some of the projects that have come out of our leadership development program over the past 6 or so years. So now I am happy to turn it over first to John Greenwood, and then Andrew will follow him to tell you about their time at MDP a little bit about their team members, and then tell you about their projects, and then give you an update on their project. So, John.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is John Greenwood. I'm the statewide relocation manager in our right-of-way department here at GDOT. I was part of a MDP team that was made up from people in offices all across the state, including a materials manager, maintenance and construction area manager. We had Office of Program Delivery manager, procurement manager, and Brittany was on our team, is in the communications department with our team. So we were tasked with identifying an area that needs improvement. Well, we discovered an area in my right-of-way department that was an opportunity for improvement for our team to take on. Currently, our right-of-way department purchases right-of-way on approximately 2,000 parcels every year across the state. Through that process, our right-of-way agents has to collect documents from those parcel owners. Currently, they're collecting paper documents with wet ink signatures on those documents. They're having to carry those documents back to their office, scan them into the printer, download them to their computer, and then upload those to our digital document repository. That's ProjectWise. That's where we keep that official parcel documentation through the right-of-way process. Our team has identified a solution to kind of streamline this process, automate it some, where we can collect those signatures on these documents digitally using touchscreen tablets in the field. So our team researched the best hardware to collect the signatures from and the best software to use to collect these signatures, upload them to ProjectWise, and really go paperless with our document retention for these parcels. I want to say that through the MDP process, having that diversity, that diverse experience across all these offices, I think really benefited moving this process forward a lot quicker. Because when we're researching, you know, who's the subject matter expert that knows what's the best software to use? Someone on our team has worked with that office before. They knew right who to contact and get us moving in the right direction with the best software solutions, the best hardware solutions, the legal implications of what the signatures we're collecting. So we were able to contact those resources much faster to help us implement this program, really streamlined, I think a lot quicker than if the program had grown just from a right-of-way team. To be able to come through the MDP program is a real benefit for us. Currently, where we are on the project right now is I have a tablet that I'm testing. My next steps is to meet with a couple of the district team managers, and we're going to finalize the format and function of the forms that we're using and have the teams go out and test this new process in the field with property owners. So we're, in the next couple weeks, going to be able to take these out and practice using them. Through a couple teams testing them out, we're going to finalize the best practices for the program and then take that across the state to all the districts and train all the districts on the best practices of implementing this new process. Once it's in the hands of all the districts, I foresee those teams recognizing and identifying other documents and areas across right-of-way where they're going to see an old paper form and say, hey, why is this not digital? And then we're going to be able to merge those into this new digital format and continue to improve our right-of-way department through this paperless process. So I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this MDP program, and I think our right-of-way department is going to benefit greatly from this program that's come out of it. So with that, I'd like to introduce Andrew Pearson to talk about his project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Pearson. I'm the State Traffic Operations Manager, specifically over access management, signal permitting, and the Operational Improvement Program. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my team. We were known as the GDOT Avengers during MDP, and somewhat similar to the real Avengers, somewhat similar to the Avengers, we were kind of brought from all over the state, from Louisville, Jessup, Cartersville, and we had 2 people here in Atlanta, including myself. So we kind of brought different viewpoints from our day-to-day jobs and kind of came up with our project idea. So what we decided to tackle is vandalism on our overhead signs along our interstates. Obviously, if you drive up and down the connector and along I-20 in the metro Atlanta area, you're bound to see some graffiti of some sort on a lot of our sign structures. The sign that you'll see in your screen to the left is actually on Jackson Street Bridge sign that's just over John Lewis Freedom Parkway. If you're driving on my way here from the TMC, I noticed that there's additional graffiti. So this image you'll see was actually from about 2 years ago, I want to say. We overlaid it and cleaned it up. And currently, there's more graffiti back on the sign. So it was like, when we got to MDP, it was threw out the idea, like, hey guys, what are your thoughts about trying to figure out how to prevent this from happening? Because obviously it's a cost to the department. One of the big things is when you're just driving, especially from out of town, you may not know where you are, and you expect these signs to help you get where you need to go. And so the sign to your left, if you're driving, you may not have any clue what lane you need to be in, and it becomes a problem. Whether it's an operational concern, it's a safety concern, those all become issues for the traveling public. So that was essentially how we got our idea. So the next step was, okay, so let's come up with, like, what are we doing currently to try and tackle the situation? So right now, I mentioned overlay. So we'll either overlay, we'll clean, or we'll replace signs. Overlay is pretty much like a sign. It's essentially just a big sticker that we'll place on the sign that with replacing the existing text or imagery on the sign so the traveling public can see it. And that's not a totally bad solution. The problem is you still have to block lanes of traffic to get that overlay on the sign. And then that overlay over time, it looks bad because it's a different material than the sign itself. So you may have the reflectivity of the top part or the bottom part of the sign be one shade of green, and another bottom part's another. It looks tacky, for lack of a better word. The next solution is to clean the sign. So we can go up there and clean these signs. Problem with that is we don't always get all the graffiti off. Like, it's just almost impossible to get rid of all the graffiti. And then if we do, we're also doing damage to the signs itself. And so our signs are retroreflective. And so when we're going up there and scrubbing this graffiti off, you're damaging the retroreflectivity of the sign. And the retroreflectivity is what allows you to see those signs at night. And that's what your headlights are hitting, and it's allowing that sign to be seen from 600-700 feet away. So we're cleaning it, we're on to doing some damage to the signs themselves. So it's not a foolproof solution. And then the other solution is we can just replace the sign. Those signs are not cheap though. Like currently it costs about $30 a square foot to replace the sign. So draw your attention back to that sign on the left. If we were to replace both of those signs, we're looking at about $17,000, and that's just to replace the signs. That's not traffic control to get our crews out there and take the old sign down, put the new sign up. So you're looking at a pretty significant cost if we're just going out there replacing signs on a repeated basis. So our solutions, what we came up with is, let's find a way to prevent accessibility to our signs. And so we came up with a couple of different solutions. One is to remove the catwalk. And so the catwalk, you can probably see it on the sign on the left. It's essentially just a walkway that we used to use back in the day when we were going up there and changing our signs or fixing signs. We had crews get up there and stand on the catwalk, and they can make whatever change they need to and then get off. We no longer do that anymore. We use bucket trucks to make a lot of these changes and fixes. So if we remove these catwalks, it'll go a long way in just getting these vandals a place to just stand and spray paint the front of our signs. So that's our first step. We have another solution would be a potential border around the signs that would prevent people from reaching around. So if you can picture someone standing on that bridge and they want to just try and reach from the bridge and spray paint the edge of the sign, we could put a potential border, picture a picture frame essentially that would prevent you from just reaching around and spray paint the edge of the sign. So that's another solution. And then the third solution is what we called a tower guard essentially. It would be expanded metal that we put on the sign uprights. If you look on the sign, the pictures to the left, you have like the uprights that hold the bridge portion of the sign structure. And we looked at using expanded metal to prevent people from essentially just climbing up the uprights and accessing the signs from that standpoint. So where we are currently with our project is we've met with our District 7 maintenance engineer as well as the district engineer himself and kind of threw out our ideas on what we're looking to do, and they're fully on board. So they just told us to come back to them with about 4 or 5 locations that we can test some of these ideas out, and we've got their full support in that regard. We met with the State Bridge Office last week to discuss just implementing and make sure that what we're looking to do is not going to cause any damage to the sign structures themselves, because the sign structures themselves are expensive, much more expensive than the signs. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing to prevent them from accessing the signs isn't going to damage the structures, which in turn costs the department more money. So we're hopefully looking at implementing some of these preventative measures in the beginning of the next fiscal year, and then hopefully we'll start seeing less and less graffiti on our signs. So, thank you. I'm going to hand you back over to Kyle.
Okay, but Andrew, before you leave, I might have a question. Did you have a question?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. I'm just curious, was there any consideration given to if I know you don't catch these folks too often, but if you did, what kind of penalty might they face if they're caught?
Well, I don't know myself. I imagine it's more of a question for legal. I know we spoke with our department investigator and kind of got there, and I think they have spoke with local law enforcement and kind of tried to see what we can do to press charges on people if they do happen to find out who is vandalizing our signs, but it's kind of one of those law enforcement things. I imagine there's something in state code or law that they can be penalized for.
I'll just add that, anyone that is caught breaking the law and damaging things that we can collect on, usually we do pursue.
Right.
But you're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question to Andrew? Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. Both of you, very well done. Do we have a vendor, like those signs that we're seeing, are those created as a sole source vendor? Is that the state produces them? Is it a national vendor who creates these signs?
So we have a contractor that we use, but there's multiple contractors throughout the state that can fabricate these signs. So there's one that we use pretty frequently, but if it's for, whether it's like a PDP project, like when we have over at Signs, they have contractors they'll reach out to build the signs, and then, so it just kind of depends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Andrew? Well, I'm not going to leave John out, but John, did anybody have a question to John when he gave his presentation to us on the state right-of-way relocation of messages and things? You did a good job too, John. You and Andrew both. All right, Kyle, let's see what you can do.
That was it. I was going to ask if there are any questions, but y'all happily were able to ask some. But if you have any more, I'd be happy to answer any on the MDP program. I want to thank John and Andrew for coming up here and sharing their stories about their project development, where they are, and their team members and things like that. So thank you very much.
Any additional questions to Kyle? Yes.
Not a question, but we would love to have an update, maybe in about a year.
Okay, excellent. 1 year from now.
Very true. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have something updated sooner than that, Ms. Lemon, so we can provide you some good news earlier than 1 year.
Well, we'll hold you to that also.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
That sounds good. Any additional questions in regards to our management development program? Thank you three so very much for being here today. Certainly do appreciate it.
Great.
If there's no other business for our committee of the whole, the committee stands adjourned.